My name is Angus Elliott and I study biological science at La Trobe University. Colourblindness is the decreased ability to see colour or differences in colour. Colourblindness is not actually a form of blindness, it's a deficiency in the way that we see colour. With this vision impairment we have trouble distinguishing colours such as red, blue, green and yellow. Colourblindness is an inherited condition that affects males more than it affects females. According to Prevent Blindness America, it can affect up to 8% of males and less than 1% of females. Colourblindness occurs when light-sensitive cells in the retina fail to respond appropriately to wavelengths of light that enable people to see an array of colours. Photoreceptors in the retina are called rods and cones. Rods are more plentiful and more sensitive to light, but rods are unable to perceive colour. Contrary to popular belief, it is rare for colourblind people to see only in shades of grey. Most people who are considered colourblind can see colours, but certain colours appear washed out and are easily confused with other colours, depending on the type of colour deficiency that they have. There are different types of colourblindness, and there are extremely rare cases in which some people are unable to see colour at all. The most common form of colourblindness is red-green colourblindness, although this does not mean that sufferers mix up the colours red and green. In reality, they mix up all colours with aspects of red and green in them. Similar problems can arise across the whole colour spectrum. These can affect colours of red, blue, green, purple, orange, yellow, and even black can be confused as dark blue or dark green. Statistically speaking, a person with moderate red-green colourblindness would only be able to identify 5 different coloured pencils of a 24 box set. People with colourblind deficiencies often have trouble finding jobs, as many professions like pilots, train drivers, police officers require perfect colour vision.
Come on man, wake up, the bus is here.
The look in cinema is organised in several ways. So there is the look of the camera at the pro-filmic event, and there is the look of the characters to camera, to each other, off screen, and there is the look of the spectator at the screen. So we've got at least those 3 different kinds of looks interacting with each other. So there's that idea that cinema up there on the screen ideally addresses a visual point in the audience, which is the spectator's eyes. This is built on perspective and Western perspective that was developed in oil painting. More recently, a lot of people have been interested in phenomenology and the role of the body and all of the senses in the cinematic experience. We think about the eyes and the ears, so sound becomes a focus of attention, and definitely in the performance of the actors you would perceive sound even when it's not there. So that's a really important point, that our senses are interconnected. So when we see something, we also hear it. Even with silent cinema, sound was really important. You would have live presentation of the silent film with showmen doing a kind of drum roll, pay attention, here comes the train. You also had the organ in the pit that would rise up, and the organ player would play a live accompaniment to the silent action on the screen. Even in the subtitles on the screen or the intertitles in silent films, you would have a sense of sound.
Yeah?
Does it, like,
Yes.
can it, like, why is it so deep?
Not again the bigger
It's making a weird sound.
There you go.
Throwing our lives against a wall, like we don't have a chance at all. Selling our dignity for attention, or whatever our small minds call loving. And like poison running through our veins, this is our disease, our disease, our disease. All we hear is live fast and die young, and don't listen to anyone. Oh, oh, oh. Choruses of we don't care where the youth of today. Let's live it up, let's live it up.
I had always thought that I'd seen the world the same way as everyone else. I didn't even really notice or pay attention to it. It was like breathing. Then one day I was having an anxiety attack, and I was describing it to a friend. I said that it felt like I had a white glowing ball in my chest, and it was the reason that I couldn't breathe properly. She told me that that was a thing. I later looked up what she was talking about. That's when things started to make more sense to me. I had always associated letters and words to a colour. For example, M is red, but A is a bluish purple. Generally, a word will become the one colour depending on its first letter. Each day of the week also has a colour to me. For example, Monday is red, Tuesday along with Thursday are a darkish blue, while Friday is a light blue. I've also always associated colour auras to friends. So I decided that I wanted to find others like me. I wanted to know how they discovered they were different, and whether they used it in their everyday life, to gain insight into their world of colour.
The first time I remember I was sitting with all like the texts that I'd gotten for Christmas that year, and I was writing down the alphabet. A was red, B was blue, C was yellow, etc. And then I asked my dad, I said to him like, you know, what colour's your A? What colour's your B? And he rattled off a bunch of seemingly random colours to me. It didn't look like he really connected with each one of them.
When I would be colouring in, like as a kid I used to do a lot of drawing and stuff, and I would always associate a colour with like a particular letter. As kids do, they always write big block letters with their name and stuff. Mine would always have to be red for S and blue for A, and so on.
I always knew that A was pink and B was an orangey brown and C was yellow and so on.
I can remember knowing a word was wrong in a spelling test. If I was about to write it and I wrote it with an A and I'm like, that word doesn't have red in it, I'm certain, you know. I just felt the spelling was a no-brainer to me, and I think it was largely due to having like the letter to colour, graphing colour synesthesia.
Growing up, it always helped me with like spelling and remembering dates and names and all that stuff because they've got a clear set of colours. Like if it doesn't look right in my head, it's not spelt right, or it's not the right date that something was meant to be.
And then it was just something that was completely normal to me until I looked it up and actually found out it was an actual thing.
I was in primary school. I really clearly remember the time and place. I was at the museum with my mum. I was in a little dark room with a little screen playing, and it was just a video. It was a series about lots of different neurological phenomena, and one of them was synesthesia. And I remember watching it and just realising they're describing something I do, and that's so normal to me, and it just clicked that that's not something everyone goes through or something everyone experiences. And that was the initial like aha moment.
It wasn't until like several years later that I stumbled across the Wikipedia article for synesthesia, and as soon as I saw that picture in like the top right hand corner of like synesthesia and the numbers 0 to 9 like in different colours like that, I was like, bam, yep, that's me, I've got that, you know.
I tried to make it more applicable to music, which is my main sort of thing. When I would be at concerts and stuff, I would sit down, I'd close my eyes and try to imagine music the way that I would see letters and stuff with colours. And it helps me a lot, especially with songwriting, especially with like arranging pieces and recomposing scores and stuff, that I would like be able to subjectively see things and how they were placed together without having to be particularly lost like a lot of other musicians tend to find.
Marginally, I have like the sensation of music being represented as at least shapes, and then also like colours attributed it in some way. I've always found music that is particularly like vibrant to me and like creative sounding also tends to mimic that in like the visual representation. And so some of my favourite bands whose songs I've actually painted a couple of times, always look gorgeous to me in my head. Although I've always found that the more I think about it, the less vibrant it becomes, and then if I think about it hard enough, it almost feels like I don't have synesthesia anymore.
Well, my most recent range that I've done for my label Hanging Around is called Syn Aesthetic, and it's about my experience with synesthesia, specifically grapheme colour synesthesia and the colours that I associate with letters and numbers. I had thought about using it as a theme to do like the cushions with the words and stuff like that, and I've had some friends suggest that I do it because they find it so fascinating that surely other people would. It was when I was sitting there trying to think of a second collection that I was like, it's time, we're gonna do it. So it really enriches my design process in almost all of the stages. Like I see the world in much more of like just a colourful way. I have a hint more of a rainbow in my everyday life, which I think is really cool to have as someone who works with colour professionally. I think that's a really big standout.
Welcome to our hidden worlds of colour.